It's a pleasure to have you back on the show. I know you and I have maintained communication. I think like every couple of weeks or so, we contact through email, making sure everything is good. And one thing I want to ask you, and I know we touched on this earlier, is the dating lab. Can you tell me what that is and how that is going?
Yes, absolutely. So having coached for a couple years in this particular area of Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, um, I have observed quite a few tendencies and patterns and behaviors among single people. And one of the common themes that I keep noticing is that people tend to be eager to acquire some kind of knowledge, and sometimes I think they even want a shortcut. They think once they learn something intellectually, it will help them make change practically. But what happens is just because they take this knowledge in and they don't really put it through practice, sooner or later it fades away, right? It disappears. So I have been teaching people in my coaching practice that you have the theoretical knowledge. That's the first step. You have to put it through practice in order for that knowledge to become your wisdom, your internalized wisdom on emotional level, mental, and intellectual level. So, having said that, I have come to realize that it's not enough for me as a coach to give people that theoretical knowledge and keep them accountable and push them to practice. So, I've decided to create a space where I can hold safe, supportive environment for them to interact with each other. So, the interactive dating lab is it's an idea to bring singles together, give them opportunities to practice because every single one of them is learning, but at the same time, they're singles. So they also have opportunities to connect. And I believe that when we know that, oh, okay, I'm learning something and they're learning something, the pressure is a little bit lower. Does it make sense?
It does, because then you're getting people together who are single, who are looking for a relationship, and they're eager to maybe make it work because, let's say, for example, in the past, they couldn't make it work. And now you're getting them all together. And I think, at least for me, if I look back on my dating experience, proximity was an issue. Like I always felt that like sometimes you may think, oh, there's no good men in my city, there's no good women in my city. But once you get people together, then you understand, wait, there's a lot of good people out there who are looking for someone to spend the rest of their life with. Do you find that to be true that sometimes people give up because they don't see the quote unquote good people in front of them, but maybe it takes a little bit more effort to identify them?
Yes, yes, I do see that. And I hear that quite often, whether it's a social setting or online platforms, online dating platforms, people have this, well, I've tried, but it's not working. Like I literally just had somebody, one of my clients, one of my female clients, she sent me a message last week and she's like, okay, I'm done. The ones that I like on online dating apps don't like me back, and the ones that like me, I'm not so interested in them, right? So she's like, ah, I'm gonna take a break. So it is quite common, but what people don't realize is mindset is a huge and a critical element in approaching dating and relationship search. And if you go in with the mindset where you are focused on scarcity, thinking like there's not enough people that fit my preferences, or there are simply not enough single people, whatever your limitation is, it's all in here, right? So mindset, switching from the mindset of scarcity and taking it into a mindset of abundance and opportunities makes a big difference, particularly in approach in this situation.
What do you think then are some obstacles that maybe some people face in the early stages of their dating experience?
One of the biggest ones, I would say, people not been sure whether they are ready or not ready to date. I get asked this question very often. I have people coming to me who had been divorced and some time had passed, and they don't understand, they don't feel whether they are ready or they are not ready. And especially those people who had long-term relationship, they were, let's say, out of the dating scene for quite some time, and they do feel that lack of skill, lack of competence in approaching dating landscape. So they're like, well, I'm going to wait until I'm ready. But there is no waiting. You're never going to be ready. There's never going to be the morning when you wake up, it's like, I'm ready to date. Let's do it. It's just not going to happen. You just got to go in and start making these little tiny steps. And as I always tell people that I coach and anybody that I get a chance to speak to about the relationship search is it's like going up the stairs. You make stepping stones. Every interaction, every conversation, every connection and a date is a stepping stone towards your person, towards your relationship. Because if you're waiting to be ready and then boom, you meet your person, not going to happen. That's not real life. An analogy that I give people is like imagine if you're a dancer and you have this huge dance recital planned, right? Do you wait to get on the stage and you start dancing, or do you practice and then you do dance recital? You practice, right? Same in dating and relationship world. You gotta practice before you actually get to the point of being confident, competent, and ready to explore.
And that's something I always found interesting, but yet difficult for some people. They'll say things like, I'm ready right now, right? And then I'll ask them, okay, what makes you ready? And they have no answer. Hopes and dreams, right, Irina? And it's
Yep.
like,
Yep.
you have to go into it a little bit more than that because I always give the example about like a job, right? Like when you apply for a job, what do? You usually look up the company. What are the benefits? How is it going to benefit you? How are you going to benefit the company? We need to do the same thing for our dating experience because the more and more, at least in my experiences, the more and more heartbreak someone has, the more hesitant they are to be vulnerable for a relationship or open up, especially if they're hearing it from their friends, from their family, from online. Like you made a good example where someone said that the people I want, they don't want me, but the ones that I don't want, they want me.
Hmm.
Why do you
Yep.
think so many people experience that where there's men or women that they want, but they can't seem to get their attention or get a relationship with them, but the ones that they don't want, they seem to attract those and they're trying to like push them away and look for better quality.
I think what truly hinders people in this particular situation of them thinking that those that they want don't want them and vice versa is that people, first of all, have high expectations as far as getting something that exactly what they want. So what do people do? They go in with a list. When I ask a person, 90% of the time, when I ask somebody, so what are you looking for in a relationship? They give me a list of qualities. I'm like, okay, we're going to throw away that shopping list and we're going to focus on the experiences and how you want to feel in the relationship. When I ask people, how do you want to feel in the relationship? It takes them some time to answer. So this is the trouble. We are going in with preconceived notion, a box, and we're trying to fit everybody in this box. And if they don't fit in the box, we throw them away. Instead of throwing the box away and going in with the open mind, open heart, and going, well, let me see what the life story is behind this person. Let me see what conversation we can make happen. And this is what I always say. It's not, don't even call it the first date. It's an opportunity to see if the conversation is possible. That's all you're there to do. You take that pressure off, you detach from that big outcome, and you focus on the conversation. So it's self-sabotage for the most part, but it's the lack of that openness of heart and mind that prevents people from aligning people that want you and that people that you want.
Do you think that's difficult for people to do to understand that point you just made and move forward with their dating experiences?
It is difficult. It is difficult because Our human nature is to simplify things, choose the way of the least resistance. It's just how we human on our basic level, that's how we function. Our minds are designed to preserve the energy. So we have so many biases we're having to deal with. So if we are unaware of those biases, if we haven't spent the time re-evaluating our belief system on which the relationship model is settled on, right? If we don't understand our triggers in relationship, if we don't know our attachment style, if we don't understand the difference between codependency and interdependency, then we are having trouble going in with the open mind and open heart because we're scared to fail. It comes down to that. We're scared to fail, so we don't try because we don't want to fail.
I recently learned quite a bit about the different attachment styles. And it was interesting for me and very eye-opening because when I looked at the different types, right, where you have, let's say, the secure and you have the anxious and you have the avoidant and things like that, I begin to understand. I was like, okay, this is why this situation happened in this relationship I was in. This is why this happened. And you begin to analyze and understand. And sometimes I look at like yourself, Irina, and I look at me and I look at other coaches or other therapists and mentors. And I wonder if we're at an advantage because for us to be where we are, we had to not only do work on ourselves, but we had to do work to enter this type of industry. Do you then think that some people who don't do the work are either avoiding the work or maybe they don't know that they require work?
I would say it's both. I would say some people don't know they need work, but in reality, at least my personal opinion, as somebody who has two divorces, and somebody who has been in the coaching industry for some time, working with people and working on my own relationship skills, I can say that it takes not only courage to admit that work is needed, but also a certain level of awareness to understand that the work is needed. And what I've learned myself personally is that it's excruciatingly difficult to come to that awareness that the work is needed on your own. That's difficult. When you have an objective view, when you have a sounding board, somebody you trust, somebody you feel safe with, that is much easier. At least that's what helped me personally many years ago when I'm like, like deep down, I'm like, okay, something's off, something's not right. Like, why I'm married for the second time, I'm still unhappy. What's going on? Like, but I wasn't ready yet at that point to admit that there was something wrong that I was doing until I had a professional going, listen, here's the thing, this, and this. These are your triggers, this is your reactions, this is your protest behaviors. She broke it down for me. And when she did, I was like, well, there's so much data now that I need work. I can't just hide from it. So, and then, yes, and then there's a category of people who do have that level of awareness, or at least a certain awareness that the work is needed, but they have difficulty taking on that challenge for various reasons. If they were shamed into keeping up a certain facade, for example, this is what I come across quite often. They're trying to be perceived perfect. So if they're perfectionists, if they're sticklers, right? It's extremely hard for them. They may know it, but it's going to be really hard for them to know, to say, you know what? I need help. I need somebody's guidance. I need somebody to help me and show me what to do. That requires certain courage. But it also, I believe it all comes from our childhood and from our early experiences to get to the point of understanding who we are at our core under the social and emotional conditioning that we go through in relationships, in childhood, school, and everything that's going on around us, the environment we grow up in.
How do you think then someone can identify if they're avoiding the situation or maybe learn what they can do to become aware of where they're falling short when it comes to dating and finding a partner that's going to make them happy throughout their life?
To be honest with you, it's an excellent question, but to be honest with you, when it comes to truly understanding how you attach to people, because we all attach, we absolutely need somebody to depend on. It's just, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, there's a difference between codependency and interdependence, right? But there is really no way around it. But going deeper into understanding what it is, this is why I always say like there should be a mandatory relationship course. It's like, oh, you wanna be in a relationship? Here's a 6 months course. Once you pass it and get your certification, then you can move in together, get engaged, get married, and so on. It's one of my unpopular opinions that people don't like hearing. But at the end of the day, it's the knowledge is there. We're so lucky to live in the day and age where the abundance of information accessible so quickly and so easily, right? But it's that information, seeking out that information that has to be combined with somebody holding that safe space for you know, like you do as a coach, or when I do it as a coach with my clients to keep nudging you in the right direction. But the first step is with uh, seeking out that information. That's where it starts.
There was someone I was working with, Irina, and she mentioned she is in her 60s and she got married like a lot of people from that generation in their 20s and then it didn't work out. And then she was dating here and there, trying to find love in all the wrong places. And you probably have heard so many people say that, right? I just can't make it work. As she got older, she began to give up on love. And then when I started working with her, I asked her the question. I was like, "Why is that? Why do you think um, you won't be able to find love as you continue to grow into the person you are until you grow older?" And she's like, "Terrain, at this point in my life, I think love is for people who are younger, who are in their 20s and 30s." And I
Mhm.
made the same face, and I was like, "Love knows no age limit. Love doesn't expire." And she took a step back and she understood what I was saying, but she had a difficult time accepting it just because of what she was seeing. So I would ask you then is if you've worked with men or women who are, let's say, older in age, in your experiences, do you find that their outlook on love is different, or are they maybe a little bit hesitant because, like in the example I gave, they don't think they can find it anymore because of their age?
First of all, I love the fact that you said love doesn't expire. It's a beautiful saying. I might have to steal it. So I apologize in advance. But as far as so yes, I do have clients over 60, both men and women. And surprisingly, I would say, at least so far, I've had people that they still want love. And they may have dropped the romanticized idea of love. So I would think the biggest difference, you know, if I'm coaching somebody who is 25, they have um, a certain relationship model formed by possibly some Disney fairy tales and Hallmark movies, which is not reality. We all know that. And then somebody who have gone through relationship struggles. So they still want love because we are wired to want love. So as you're describing this lady that you were helping, she still wants love, but she's given up